The word actor brings to mind two polar extremes: stardom, seduction, fame, and fortune. Yet also living on pennies, dreams, and on other people's couches. Both legends and lost souls bound by a single word: actor. But the craft is more than just success, struggle, and serendipity. The craft is a mindset, one that can change the way you see yourself and the world around you. It sharpens your intuition, teaches you how to own the room and influence those around you. There's no better way to discover yourself than to first try on somebody else. It isn't Hollywood. It's not Broadway. This is Riddlesbrood. So welcome to the Acting Out Podcast. And now your host, Clyde P. Riddlesbrood.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for listening to the Riddlesbrood Acting Out Podcast. We have some fun things for you to hear about today. One of the biggest persons that I want to actually introduce is Kate Brubaker. She'll be on in a few moments. She's our company manager. She's been with the company for quite some time. And we thought a nice thing to talk about today would be especially for young actors, maybe 18 to 20-somethings that are really interested in entertainment, maybe want to get more involved in theater or maybe doing film or whatever they might be wanting to do, but also get paid for it, because that's actually a little bit about what this is about here. We want to try to talk how it works a little bit more in the professional sphere where you're actually getting paid to act, not just doing community theater. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kate Brubaker. Hello there.
Hello, Ryan.
Thank you so much for stopping by today. I thought you'd be a great guest today because of your experience in the industry and also the fact that you are the first person that all the actors deal with when they're doing their schedule and trying to figure out what shows they're going to be on and how they're going to get cast in the shows. But before we get into all that fun stuff, I thought maybe we'd let you have a few moments to just talk about how you got here, you know, how long you've been around with the Riddlesbrood Theater Company, and I'll just let you go from there.
Okay. Well, I started acting as a child, and I just did community theater type stuff and vocal lessons. And then as I got older, I kind of shifted away from it. And I just so happened to have on my suggested pages on Facebook, one of the members of Riddlesbrood was doing one of his shows, Frankenstein Rocks, and he cast me in a very small unpaid part. And it kind of got my foot in the door to do makeup for you.
That's right.
And then I got invited to the Christmas party, and it kind of just happened naturally from there. And it's almost 8 years now, I want to say.
That's amazing. Well, you know, it's kind of funny you mention that, because I'm sure a lot of actors and a lot of people in the industry would also probably reinforce that idea that networking and just kind of being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right people really goes a long way.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like as you said, you probably wouldn't even have been here if it wasn't for the fact that you just happened to audition for a show that one of the actors was in. And then after that show, he said, hey, you know, there's this girl, Kate, and she does makeup too. And we were like, yeah, sure. So it's kind of funny how just kind of being in the mix is a great way to further your career that way with contacts.
Oh, for sure. Because even in the other gigs that I work, I've gotten actors for us through that. So, I mean, if you know somebody, it's definitely going to help.
That's a very interesting thing that you bring up, too, because I always like to say, like, a lot of people will say, oh, you know, well, you know, is it like full time? Is it like a, you know, if you work for a theater company, is it going to be like a full-time job? And the answer is really, to be quite honest, is no.
No.
Everybody would love that to be the case. But the fact is with entertainment and theater, and pretty much a lot of people are involved in many different aspects of entertainment. Really, you have to have a lot of different gigs.
Yes.
So a lot of people work for other entertainment companies. They might be a DJ on the side and they do murder mystery shows, or they do some kids puppet shows with another company and do pirate gigs with some other pirate troupe. Have you seen that a lot where, I mean, I know you even do some shows.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a great example of that. I do shows with another company, but I also crochet dolls. I do all sorts of things to make extra money, but that's what's great about working for Riddlesbrood or for any company like that, is that it's very flexible. So for a mom like me too. The hours, you can kind of make your own schedule. You can work multiple gigs. It's really great for somebody that, wants to get into the industry, wants to make money, but also doesn't have the time to commit fully. Maybe they're in school, maybe they have kids. There's a billion different things.
Well, not only that, if you actually are interested in being involved in the arts or the entertainment industry, and you say, well, I got to have a full-time gig, the problem is then it'll be really hard to ever get any gigs because you're never really available. So it's going to be easier if you can assemble a patchwork of a bunch of different revenue streams. Maybe you have this one group over here, another group over here. That's actually the key to having your feet, in the door to a lot of different opportunities.
Well, yeah, because, I don't really know of any that are full-time. Any of the opportunities or the other companies that I work with or any of the other actors work with are going to be very part-time.
You're really lucky if you land something like that. And then even then, it's maybe a couple months you get out of it, and then the show closes, and then that's it. You're back scrambling all over again.
Or just doing the show for free.
Yeah.
That's how I started. So
well, we try to go beyond that.
Right.
That's why we have our community theater productions. And, the community theater productions are a great gateway to get young people, kids and stuff into the field. They can see, they can explore, they can learn a little bit, get their stage legs. And if they're interested from that point forward, there's an avenue, a way for them to get into the murder mysteries or the touring show, the dinner theater shows, and that's kind of the progression that we try to give an opportunity for those guys to do that. Now, how about this? Now, when you get some new actors, I know sometimes we'll get some new actors that'll reach out and we'll shoot the resume to you, and you kind of guide them into the process. What kind of questions do they usually ask you?
A lot of the questions are about travel. Because we do travel quite a bit. A lot of people want to know, do we carpool? Do we get paid for travel, which we do? A lot of questions are about the hours, about how often they have to work, which is, pretty much whenever you can work.
Right.
That's a lot of the questions that we get.
How about if somebody says, well, what is a good answer to if you get, like, say, a 19-year-old girl and she calls up, she goes, well, I'm really good at acting and I'd like to do some shows. And she goes, but I really don't like to drive.
Well, you would definitely have to get past that. Again, I'm a good example of that. I did not drive on the highway probably for the first 6 years that I did shows. And now I realize how silly that was and how much money that I spent extra. So, it's very important that you be able to drive and be able to get around. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and you're going to get a lot more opportunities if you're willing to drive.
Well, this is one of those things where sometimes you just have to get in somebody's face a little bit and just say, hey, listen, we're going to be real honest with you. If you don't like to drive or driving's hard or, you don't have a car or don't have a license,
it's probably not.
It's just not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Because the chances of you getting any work, in your town,
right,
is almost impossible, let alone even getting, enough gigs that matter in a county. You need to be able to drive at least 2 hours from your house to get a sufficient number of gigs to even make any sense.
And it's not like you always have to do that. I drive sometimes. Last night I was 45 minutes from home.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm 15 minutes. Sometimes I'm 2 hours. You just don't know. So you have to be willing.
Yeah. And as far as carpooling, I know a lot of times we do. Some people, when they're brand new, they do they're a little nervous. They don't know everybody yet. That they're a little shy. And that's certainly understandable. But usually once people have done a couple shows and get a chance to meet everybody, they're usually much more comfortable to carpool.
Yes.
So those options are there and those opportunities are there. But it is important for people to understand if they really want to be able to make a couple bucks using their acting talent and hone their skills, they really have to get comfortable with the idea of being able to, get that GPS on, jumping in the car and going to a couple different restaurants all around.
Yes, 100%.
Now, how about other questions? Like maybe I would assume they might be like, well, I've done some high school theater and I've done some stuff like that. Is there rehearsals or, do I have to spend a bunch of weeks of rehearsal before we go? How do you approach that?
No, a lot of the rehearsals are done over the phone. So They would not have to do weeks and weeks of rehearsals. This is definitely more meant for people that are more confident and willing to improv and jump into it a little bit more. It's definitely not the same as doing a high school production or even any stage production. It's definitely a different beast. But I mean, if you're confident and you feel like you have the talent, I feel like anybody can really do it if they really want to.
Now, what if somebody says, but I'm just trying to get into this. I really don't know if I'm that confident. Maybe I don't have what it takes. I don't know.
Well, we would start them out with something smaller, most likely just give them like a little tiny scene that we would put them with very strong people and make sure that they felt confident that if they messed up, the other people would be able to save them.
Right.
So that's pretty much that.
Well, you know what? That's what I was trying to get to. We do have, training shows.
Yes.
Where usually when somebody starts off, they usually do 3 training shows where they're only doing a partial part. And that's to get them more comfortable with the process, to get just comfortable with the whole gig process completely, from leaving home to driving there to helping set up some of the equipment to doing the show to breaking down to leaving to get paid, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we don't throw them in blindly.
No, we don't throw them in blindly. That being said, we have noticed that certain types of personalities tend to thrive in the dinner theater / murder mystery environment.
Yes.
And others less so. I have personally seen over the years that people that are rather extroverted and gregarious and, kind of a little wacky personality to begin with.
You have to be wacky.
They usually do better because they don't have that same kind of fear or shyness, or inhibitions. They just kind of like blurt it out. Those types of personalities maybe have trouble in an office environment.
Yes.
But in our environment, they thrive because that's what you want.
It's actually kind of funny because in my real life, I think people would say that I'm shy, which is not what I am with you guys. But I think even when I started, I was. But I think if it's something you really want and you focus on it, I mean, it can really help you with those kind of things too. You can become more extroverted and more confident by doing this.
Well, you know what? It's just like anything else. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm so scared of public speaking." But, once you get in front of an audience, of course there's going to be fear at first.
Right.
But like anything else, if you do it twice, 5 times, 20 times, 30 times, eventually you're going to realize it's just going to fade away.
Right.
The fear is not going to be there anymore. You just get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. So I always mention that too when any young new actors are just trying to cut their teeth. I always mention them and say, "Hey guys, this is actually what you need to do. If you're afraid of it a little bit, that's even more reason for you to give it a shot and stick with it a little bit."
Yes.
Even if this is not something that you want to do as a career, it'll still make you really confident in like a job interview, or if you have to do a PowerPoint presentation, or if you're a salesperson, you got to go in front of this boss of some company and try to sell them on your product, whatever it might be, or you're trying to negotiate a deal, whatever. It'll make you stronger because instead of worried about saying the wrong thing, instead you're going to be focusing on the person you're talking to and focusing on trying to persuade them.
Yes.
So you're harnessing and focusing your power of persuasion on someone else, not worried about just not looking silly or stupid. That is so important.
And I think the better you get at it and you get the reaction from the audience, that's also a big benefit.
Yes.
I mean, I love to make them laugh. I love when they like me. I mean, it's great fun and it's like a really natural high.
And there's I'm sure everybody has felt that too. Obviously, it's nice to get a tip here and there and get paid well, but there is nothing quite like being out there in the audience and just hearing the laughter and the love and people think you're funny. I mean, it's very rewarding.
It is.
Some could say it's an egotistical thing, but the fact of the matter is any actor is going to love that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's my favorite part.
I mean, have you ever walked into a stadium, like, a Philly stadium or Eagles or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden, like, everybody in the whole stadium starts, like, screaming and cheering? Like, you could almost feel that.
Yes.
Feel that vibe, and it's overwhelming. And it's a similar feeling when you're in a show. It really is a similar feeling. And it's kind of when the audience gives you that kind of energy back, it's kind of strange because it's almost like you're getting a charge, an amplifier.
Oh, it really makes me feel that way.
You're even stronger. You're even more confident than you otherwise would be. So it's amazing. It's like the audience is like a trampoline, for your jokes.
It gives me such a boost to energy. Sometimes I can't fall asleep after the show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll tell you what, is there anything that imagine again that new actor, you got their resume, they want to give it a shot, but they have a lot of worries and concerns and stuff like that. What are some of the biggest things you've noticed that might be misconceptions that new actors have?
They usually think it's going to be a lot more serious. They usually stress, I think, more than they actually have to. There's a lot of camaraderie with us. So I think once you're in, we're all going to have your back and we're all going to help. And I think that they're not necessarily used to that in some other professional settings, where even in entertainment, the other people are not going to have your back or be so supportive in your cheerleader. So I think that that's definitely something they should realize, especially with Riddlesbrood, that you're going to have a bunch of new friends that are going to be there for you and help you along the way.
Well, everybody, at least in our group that I've noticed, and honestly, I've noticed this with some other groups, although there is always some cattiness that I've seen in some other groups that we fortunately don't have.
Right.
I think that might be because of our emphasis on comedy, because the good thing about getting a laugh is that it's almost like a pure meritocracy. If you're in, like, say, a community theater and you're really far away from the audience and the big bright lights are shining and, you're not right in front of them, it's a little bit ambiguous about, how good something was or, it's in the eye of the beholder. But with a comedy, if you're the one like 2 feet away from a person in the audience that's looking right at you, looking at the sweat dripping down your head, you're looking at their half-eaten plate of food and you tell a joke and they start laughing, they know that what you said was funny, right. And you've got instantaneous verification that what you said was effective. And there's no ambiguity there, because if you said something funny and they laughed, that means you won. And if somebody says that wasn't funny, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because laughed. If it wasn't funny, they wouldn't laugh. And vice versa. If somebody says, I got a funny joke, and they go out there and say it 3 times in a row and nobody laughs, it's like, well, I beg to differ. Right. I don't think it's funny, or at least not funny yet, because nobody's laughed. So there's no subjectivity regarding your performance, and that actually is kind of like a hard reality that a lot of actors are forced to meet with comedy that is different for other community theater, because they might be able to live in the illusion of what other people say. If everybody says you were great, right, maybe you weren't great, but it's okay because there's not really any way they can prove you weren't great. In this one, if you stink, you stink, right? Well, and if you're great, you're great. Most people aren't either of those two. They're usually somewhere in the middle. But it is an interesting thing to understand about that.
Well, I don't think people realize how interactive it is either. It's not like being on the stage. I mean, we are fully interacting with the audience. We're using them as volunteers. Yep. We're making jokes with them. We're messing with them. We're naming them things. I mean, they become part of the show. So it's definitely different than if we were doing Shakespeare. Exactly. Now, do you ever get anybody that says, I don't know if I want to carry any equipment? Do I have to help load in? Or I don't know anything about a sound system. How would you address if a new actor reached out to you and was interested and had that kind of a problem? We wouldn't expect anyone to know how to do the tech on the first show, but everyone is expected to help unload. We are going to teach you if you're willing to learn, especially with the tech. We're going to show you. And it's nothing complicated. They're all fairly easy. I mean, I can do it. It's pretty simple. Yeah, if I can do it, it's not hard. Yeah. I mean, obviously like anything else, the first time you've ever, seen an XLR cable or, seen a speaker, you're going to be like, oh, what's that? But, once you've done a couple shows and you've seen them do it in front of you, and usually pull somebody aside, sometimes, but not all the time. But we won't expect anyone to know it right away. And if they need help, they can always ask someone. There's always someone else there that knows what to do. Yeah. Now, how about this? You already mentioned that we do some rehearsals, over Zoom or over a conference call kind of way. But some people might say, well, wait a minute.
You know, when I was in my local church show, we had to do 6 weeks of rehearsal just to know it. And even then, we barely got through our opening night without everybody making mistakes. How can you guys do a show or even do multiple different shows every week and not really do that many rehearsals?
Well, I mean, I think Riddlesbrood does it in a very interesting way where our script is, I describe it as Mad Libs in a way, where it's this fill in the blanks. So almost everything is the same except your character, your accent, who died, or where you're at, which keeps it very helpful. But again, we always have strong people on the show that have done it 100 times or maybe 1,000 times. And it's a lot of improv. So as long as you know the story, you know, you're usually going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, there is a lot of improvisation, and some of the show is not, especially the murder mystery shows and the dinner theater shows that we do on the tour. We have to be extremely flexible because you're never in the same room. A lot of times you're working with different actors that have maybe not done that part. So we kind of have almost like a commedia dell'arte kind of style where everybody has these archetype characters, and depending on that is how they navigate. But it is a lot of improvisation, but it's very intuitive. So even if you're new, and again, when you're new, we'll probably wind up putting you in a very smaller part so you can get a feel for it.
Right.
But after a while, it's not so hard because you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm just playing like a general character. You know, like if you ever watch Disney, there's always an over-the-top villain who's just evil for the sake of being evil, and they're a jerk. And, you know, that's such a general character, you know, that's easy to do. And then there might be another character like the buffoon. Like this character is always always doing something dumb, always falling over.
Yes.
You know, there's these archetypes. And once you kind of can sync up to that, it's a lot easier to get through because even if you don't say your lines quite right, you know how you would say it. You know?
Exactly.
So if you were to make up something, you know what you're going to make up is naturally going to fit in with this kind of character.
And the other person's going to follow along. We're going to say a response to what you say. We're not going to like leave you in the dark or make you look silly or anything.
And honestly, a lot of the actors are such, you know, hounds for the laugh. They're going to jump out there anyway. So even if you miss a line, they're going to jump out. They're going to say a bunch of jokes.
Yes.
They're going to try to get the laugh too. So it's usually not much of an issue when you're learning. You'll see all these other, you know, pros out there kind of, you know, dominating the audience, and you'll see that, and you'll be like, oh, okay. And you'll start, you know, taking a couple lessons from what they do.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of the quiet one that would just stand there for a long time.
Yeah. Now, you know what? Here's another interesting one. Now, as far as comedy, some people have said, now you're a female, I'm a guy. Seems to be more guys involved in the troupe than women, and I have seen that over the years with some other comedy forward style troupes that are more, you know, like murder mystery troupes. Not always the case, but what could you tell us about the dynamic between men versus women in the troupe and how that affects the chemistry?
Interestingly enough, I don't really feel like I am treated any differently than any of the men. I am kind of one of the guys. I mean, that's how you guys have always treated me. I've never felt, you know, any type of difference being that I'm a female. I think maybe at first I thought that you guys didn't think I was as funny, but I've picked up, I think, on a lot from you guys. So I think I've caught up.
Well, I think that you're kind of a great example of how somebody can start off and maybe be a little uncomfortable with the style of show, the style of humor, the over-the-top presence, the bombastic nature of the characters that are running out in the audience. That doesn't always come naturally for all women. But it is something that you've grown into, and now, you know, you're doing some of the big comedy characters. You're doing the crazy Russian,
it's my favorite
crazy character. Yeah. You're a crazy pirate that comes out, and the wonderful thing about those characters is they're really almost like stand-up routines. So you're not just doing a line and then somebody does a line, and then you do a line and somebody says a line, like an ensemble scene. You are in the spotlight, in a dark room. You're out there by yourself in front of the audience going joke, 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 joke. So you're on your own. Now, do you feel a lot more confident being able to do that today than you used to?
If you told me 7 years ago that I would play the suspects, I would be like, never. No way. There's no way I could do that. But now it's probably my favorite thing to do because it's so far from who I am and you get the biggest laugh. And I feel like there's a little bit of freedom with those characters. So like you said, like a stand-up routine, I came up with all these new jokes just yesterday.
Right.
And then when you get a big laugh, I mean, there's nothing better than that feeling.
What would you say to, I don't know, like a young 18-year-old girl, maybe 19-year-old girl, and I know you know the type. A lot of them, they like being an actress because they've been in several shows. But they have the archetype of they want to be the princess character, or they want to be the beautiful ingenue. How do you talk to them when they start hearing about this and they say, oh, I don't know if that's my kind of vibe?
If they want to be an actor seriously, they're going to have to play all sorts of parts that are not what they want or who they are. And I feel like you learn so much by doing that. And if you want to take it seriously, you're going to have to jump into other things. You're not always going to be the pretty princess. I've been a 17-year-old and a grandmother in the same show. You learn the most, though, doing things like that.
So you're thinking they need to get out of their comfort zone and challenge themselves with some different kind of material.
Yes, it makes you a better person in all aspects of your life. I'm pretty sure my mom even said that to you. It's made Kate a better person.
Really? I don't know.
It was at one of my birthday parties or something.
But if that's the case, then I consider that a great compliment because, it is amazing to see people that have come in over the last 5-6 years and see how much they grow and see how much they've changed their confidence and all kinds of other aspects of life, even in conversations like with strangers, you would have been less likely to speak up. You might have been less likely to mention your opinion because you were afraid that maybe they wouldn't like your opinion or wouldn't validate your opinion and you didn't want to. But if you've done this for a while, eventually you come up with this, I don't give a
yeah, that's 100%.
And that's really what it's like. You're so used to laughing and joking and dealing with hecklers, and some people love you, some people hate you. After a while, you're just desensitized.
That's so true.
You're like, you know what? If you don't like me, go to hell.
Right. I like me. My friends like me. My coworkers like me. And most of the audience liked me.
Right. So it kind of gives you like an armor after a while. It really does. Well, you know what? We're getting pretty close to the end, but before we go, a couple things I would want to just kind of see what your thoughts would be. Other than the things that I've talked about, are there any other big questions where, somebody brand new, that they're a little bit shy, they don't really know what to do as far as, do I join up with these guys? Do I try a show out? What other questions, even if it seems completely like a non sequitur, what other questions might they ask you?
That's a good question. I do think a big question I do get asked is about our camaraderie and our friendships and if people will feel left out. I've had people ask me that, and we are very big on trying to make sure everybody feels like they're part of the family from the first time you come to a show.
Yeah, we're not really cliquey at all.
No. I mean, you will become part of the clique. It's all one big clique, So I think that that's a really big one. If you're, want to make friends and you want to have fun and you want to act, it's a great thing to do to join a touring company.
Now what about pay? I'm sure, I mean, for me, when I was looking for a job, the first thing I wanted to know about pay. Do people ask you about that?
Of course.
I mean, do we feel like we have to beat around the bush? I mean, I know we have a pretty straightforward pay tier system.
Yeah, no, that's the big question is always, of course, pay, especially travel, which we do, give pay for travel.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about what that structure is, just to kind of give an idea of what they could expect for pay?
Yeah, I mean, we have a tier system. So if you start out at tier 3, I believe it's 75?
Yeah, 75.
75. And then if it's 50 miles from home base for tier 3, I forget.
Yeah, usually it's like $30 travel. $30. And then if you're tier 2, it becomes
100
50.
And then 50.
Right.
And then I know tier 2 and tier 1. And then tier 1, you actually have much more duties. Then you get even more.
Right.
And you have the ability to move up. I mean, it depends on you. If you want to do one show every 2 months, that's totally fine. You won't make as much money, but you can do that. If you want to be able to be available on the weekends, that would be tier 2. You can make $100 a show doing that. And then if you want to do something even bigger, like be the manager or something like that, there's even ability to make even more money.
Well, the one thing about our system that I really tried to do when we were kind of designing it, letting it evolve, is the flexibility of it. So some people think of, if I go, level 1 to level 2 to level 3, there's kind of like a promotion kind of mindset. Like, oh, if I'm a little better, I go up. And finally, when I get to the top, but it's not really
not about
like
being
that,
better.
is it?
No, it's more about being available than it is about being better. How much time you can commit to it is more what I would say it's about. It has nothing to do with who's like the best actor or anything like that.
So you're saying if people are like, currently not working at all and they're just on their summer break and they're available pretty much every weekend and all week, they could be paid more than somebody who might be extremely talented but it's not available.
That's exactly right. Yes.
I think that's kind of unique because obviously we struggle to have, really talented people, and everybody wants to keep very talented people. But of course, you need people that are available to do your show, right?
More important, honestly, is to have people that are committed and available and willing to learn.
Yeah. We have had plenty of people, and I say this because a lot of new actors will be like, oh boy, these guys are going to be so much funnier than me, and I'm new, and they might be really good, and I'm not going to be good, so I won't get any shows. That's not really the way it works. It actually can be the case where somebody might be a Robin Williams, somebody could be a Jim Carrey. They're the funniest guy in the world, but if they're only available to do one show every 3 months.
If they tell me no all the time, I'm going to stop asking them, and I'm going to ask the person who never does anything with acting, but they're available every weekend. Right.
So that creates a great opportunity for people that really want to get into it and are afraid to be in a competitive kind of circumstance where it's about who's the best and that kind of thing. Obviously, talent matters, but availability and, a desire to be on stage and a desire to hone your craft and, the kind of person who says, you know what, I'm going to look over my lines as opposed to the person who says, I'll just show up and phone it in. Those are the qualities that are really going to get you there.
Yes.
Not just people that are born with a super big amount of talent.
Because we'll teach you. We'll try to get you there. And one of our actors will sit there and go through 1 billion jokes and give you as many jokes as you absolutely want to make you just as funny as him. So
yeah. And you just have to be ready to listen to the director, maybe take some notes. We've been doing this for 25 years, some of us even longer. So don't be afraid to take a note from a director, even if it's feels like somebody's telling me what to do, somebody's correcting me. You really got to get that out of your system because remember, you can't see yourself. You don't see or hear yourself the way somebody on the outside sees you. Take a note, especially from these people that are used to being in comedy. They're used to the comic timing and the chemistry and all that stuff. Take the notes from the directors. It'll help you get better.
For sure. I was all ears for a very long time.
Well, I tell you what, that was a fabulous little conversation. And, I think hopefully people that might be tuning in might have heard some things that'll help them in their, actor journey to reach into the next level. If somebody was listening to this and said, you know what, I think I'll give it a try, what would be their first steps?
To reach out to us, to go on our website and reach out, and then you would direct them to me, and they would talk to me.
That's right. And we give out like a little, usually the process is pretty simple. Somebody will reach out. They'll send their resume and, their headshot and stuff. And then we'll send back usually a little packet that just kind of explains the process, the pay, all that kind of thing. And then we'll schedule a little like phone conversation just to go over some of the details to make sure that you're aware of how it goes. And if everything checks out, then we hire you. We usually don't do like an audition like you would expect a normal audition. Instead, what we do is we bring you to a shadow. That's where you come to a show. You don't get paid to do a shadow. You come to the shadow, you watch the show, you meet everybody, you can watch the show for free and then talk to everybody. After that, when you say, hey, you know what? I want to give this a shot. I'm into this. Then we'll schedule you for 3 training shows, and you'll learn, and you'll do some over-the-phone training, and then you'll show up and do a little scene. And usually by the 4th show, you're ready to be rocking and rolling and out there making the normal pay.
Oh, yeah. Usually at that point, they're begging for more shows, so...
Exactly. And our website is www.riddlesbrood.com. And I'll spell it. It's RIDDLESBROOD. And if you want to, there's an auditions page. You can find our information. But even if you just put it in through the general contact us, we'll get you. We'll probably say, hey, email us your resume and headshot to get the process started. There's also another path. And the other path is the younger to older kind of guided path that we do. So we have 2 big auditions every year, one in the spring and one as it gets into the fall, for our 2 large main stage productions, which are done as festivals in historic Smithville, New Jersey. So those are more like a traditional audition. So people will come in, they'll do an audition, and then they'll usually be auditioning for that show. However, some people that, pique our interest, we'll ask them, hey, would you be interested in maybe being involved in the touring show? And that's another way where some people get involved as well.
Or they start as a little kid and they stay with us until adulthood. We have one of those.
We have a few of those, actually. A few of those that were kids in some of the shows going back to like 2014. And now they're, young adults and they're doing shows. And that's really amazing to see
I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing to see that. Well, thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate you sharing some of your experience and knowledge with our listeners.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We hope you had a fun time listening. Don't forget, we have a bunch of other topics on our podcast, too. So check us out on YouTube. And you can also see some more information on our blog at the Riddlesbrood website as well. Thanks, and we hope to hear you next time.